Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
Morning again, everyone. And a shout out to everybody in Corpus Christi. There's a church in Corpus Christi, Texas that watches us. And so, ladies, thanks for the notes and thanks for the wonderful gifts and blessings. So welcome. I'm glad you're a part of this ministry. So how many people have ever had a dream, a goal you wanted so badly and you're working on it, but it just wasn't happening, and you kept working and it kept not happening to the point you started thinking, man, this is unlikely, and maybe it's not possible and it'll never happen. Everybody have one of those? How many people, have ever had a dream and you started overthinking and overplanning and overanalyzing it, and you got so overwhelmed you didn't do anything about it? And how many people have had a goal and a dream that you've worked on, but when you're really honest about it, it not only not happened, but you just weren't fully invested and committed to it. Kind of reminds me of this guy. I love how smooth that transition was. But who's walking along a beach in Florida, and he stumbles across this old lamp, and he picks it up and he rubs it, and out pops a genie. And the genie says, okay, you've released me from the lamp, blah, blah, blah. This is the fourth time it's happened this month, blah, blah, blah. I'm getting sick of these 3 wishes. You ain't getting 3. You get only 1 wish, so what do you want? Guy's a little stunned, but then he thinks for a second. He says, I've always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I'm scared to fly, and I also get seasick. So I would love it if you would build me a bridge to Hawaii so I can drive over and go on vacation and visit anytime I want. And the genie said, that's impossible. It ain't happening. It is impossible. Think of all the logistics for that. Think of all the supports that would have to reach all the way down in the Pacific, and then how much concrete, and the steel, the amount of steel, it's just crazy, too much. You're going to have to think of another wish. And the guy says, okay, I'll think of another wish. And he thinks for a couple of minutes, and then he says, I've been married and divorced 4 times. And each of my wives, every one of them, said that I was a bit inattentive and not thoughtful and not very sensitive. So my wish is that I could understand women, that I can know how they feel inside, what they're thinking when they give me the silent treatment, when they're crying, what's really going on with them and what they want from me, and what to do when they say nothing, and know that how to make them as happy as they can be. And the genie says, would you like that bridge with 2 lanes or 4 lanes? And so, right. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's a goodie. So today we start a 3-week series based on Broadway music songs. For 18 years I've been doing a Songs of Life series on more contemporary music, rock stuff, Beatles, Stevie Wonder, the Eagles, and so on. We've been doing that for a long time. But 2 years ago, Craig said to me, hey, and I always pick my own songs. I'm very particular about it, what songs inspire me, and so it's always that. And so then Craig said, hey, Richard, how about if I challenge you? How about if we do a Broadway series and I pick your songs? Not that I'm a control freak or anything like that, but I'm just saying. Craig always would say things like me, the first law of the theater is to say yes. And Craig is so great to work with. He is like that. He always says yes. He's always willing. And so because of the way he is, I said yes. And so we did it last year, and it was so much fun. There were songs I'd never heard of, but they were so rich and deep in texture and substance. And then so I said yes again this year. And the first one he picked was The Impossible Dream from the 1965 Broadway musical, The Man of La Mancha. How many people have seen The Man of La Mancha? Oh, fabulous. And the cool thing is he picked this, but it coincidentally happened to be my favorite musical and my favorite song. So it worked out quite well. But let me give you a little bit backstory on this. The play actually comes from the book, Don Quixote de la Mancha, written by Miguel de Cervantes in 1605. The book is over 400 years old. It is considered one of the finest pieces of writing in the world, in history. It is the second most read piece of literature in the world. It has been translated into more language than any other book except, of course, the Bible. So this is a very impressive book. It has a great history and has really made a huge impact in the world. Briefly, let me tell you the story. It's about an elderly gentleman named Alonso Quijano. And he's retired and he reads all these books and they're, chivalric romances. And he's really tired with the misery and the pain and the cruelty and the unhappiness that's in the world. And he decides to become a knight errant, Don Quixote de la Mancha. And so he, sees his life as a knight. And, he fights windmills, but he sees beauty where people see ugliness. He sees a castle where there is an inn. He sees a beautiful lady, when she's a poor kitchen servant. That, he sees more good in life than there really is. And because he sees life as he'd like it to be rather than how it is, his family thinks he's crazy. They think he's gone insane. Everybody around him thinks he's nuts, except his sidekick, who is named Sancho. And eventually this woman, whose name is Aldonza, but he calls her Dulcinea. That is the ideal for anyone. And so there's a moment where there's a prayer vigil. He's in a prayer vigil with armor on. And he's been telling Aldonza, this is my quest, that I'm on this quest. And she wants to know this quest. What is this quest thing? And so in this song, he answers the question, what he means by following his quest. And he sings, to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, and to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, and to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far. So how many people, when you heard Rusty sing that song, got uplifted, excited, motivated, inspired, and filled with a sense of joy and possibility? And so my question is, why? Why? Why did hearing that song do something that inspired and uplifted you? And that is because it touched a spirit that's always been in you. It is an evolutionary impulse to grow and to expand and to become and express more of the fullness of the magnificence and the genius and the beauty and the talent and the greatness that is in you. That there is a light in you that wants to shine. That there is beauty in you that wants to be expressed and radiated and shared with the world. There's a line in Scripture, 2 Timothy, it says, stir up the gift of God that is in you. And the fact is, it stirred up the gift of God that is in you. That light went on in you because it's always been in you. And sometimes we need to stir that gift up because sometimes we forget our magnificence, our divine nature. How incredible we really are, that we are unique expressions of God. Sometimes we forget how worthy we are. We allow our fear and negativity, and thoughts of lack, and fear really stop us from remembering the truth of who we are. And so the reason that song triggers you is because there's a light in you. There is a dream in you. There's potential and possibility in you that needs to be reawakened. And that's what I think this song does for us. It reawakens to our dreams. It reawakens us to possibilities that we might have closed our minds to. So what dream is stirring in you? What is your unreachable star? What is your impossible dream? What is your heavenly cause? What is it that is calling you to be more and express more than you ever have before? A dream is a vision or a belief of becoming or expressing something greater, and about giving life to something in you that isn't currently fully manifested in this world. And maybe it is to create greater equality in this world or social justice. Maybe it is to write your novel or to sing your song. Maybe it is an invention. Maybe it's to experience greater success or to know love in a deeper way than you ever have before. Maybe it's to let go of something in your past that you've been holding on to for a long time. Maybe it's to help bring healing to your family. Martin Luther King had an impossible dream. Gandhi had an impossible dream. Steve Jobs had an impossible dream. And I really love this whole idea of, and actually communities can have it too. I was reading this article of how to make your impossible dreams come true. There's a place in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. They had a huge issue with kids using drugs and committing crime and being delinquent and having issues in their family. And they treated kids between 6 and 18. And do you know, over a 30-year period, 75% of the kids that came through the program never committed another crime? That the majority of them reduced or stopped alcohol abuse. They increased their level of interest and the quality of their grades and their attendance in school. That there are things that we look out in society and think that's not possible to get better, but it truly is. And I love the whole idea of the impossible dream. They don't just say a dream, they say the impossible dream. You know why? Because the impossible dream is something that stretches us beyond our limit of what we currently believe. It stretches us beyond what we think we can be and what is absolutely possible. Richard Rogers has a wonderful line. He always says, if your dream doesn't scare you, then it ain't big enough. And so an impossible dream is there to pull out more in us than we have ever allowed to be expressed or shared or created. I truly believe that there is so much untapped potential in us. There are talents and abilities that we have allowed to lay dormant, that we hold back and live so cautiously. And an impossible dream is about bringing that out. It is about sharing and expressing that. That no matter how many times a relationship might have failed and you've never experienced love, to still be willing to open your heart and to hold a dream for a level of love and nurturing in our relationship that is greater than you've ever had. Maybe it's to face an addiction and to overcome it. Maybe it is to start over at a later time in your life into a whole new career and to reinvent yourself. Maybe it's an impossible dream of getting so successful that you donate $1 million to Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center. And I love the impossible dream. The scripture says it. All things are possible to those who believe. With God, all things are possible. Nothing shall be impossible with God. And so it's opening ourselves to that possibility. There's a fabulous commercial, that Nike commercial, the Colin Kaepernick commercial. It's one of the best commercials I've ever seen, and I just want to share with what inspires me about it. They open with the line, people say your dreams are crazy. If they say your dreams are crazy and laugh, then good. And then it shows a kid skateboarding down a railing and he keeps falling. I think he's crazy and should stop, but he keeps going. And then another kid with no legs is wrestling. Then it goes to a kid with a huge, incredible wave that he's surfing on. And then it moves to a Muslim woman boxer. And then it goes to a young girl in a wheelchair dribbling 2 basketballs at the same time. And then it says a young man who lost 120 pounds became an Ironman athlete after battling a brain tumor. Then they had a homecoming queen who was not only homecoming queen, she was a star of her high school football team. And it says, you don't have to be like anyone to be somebody. And then it goes and says, if you were born a refugee, don't let it stop you from playing soccer on your national team at the age of 16. These are all true stories, by the way. And it says, don't just be the best basketball player in the world, LeBron James. Be something even greater. He actually opened his own high school back in his hometown. It says, if you have only one hand, don't just watch football, play it. And Shaquem Griffin, if you don't know, has only one hand, and he starts on defense for the Seattle Seahawks. And the final one is, even if you're born in Compton and I didn't have any money, don't just be a great tennis player, be the best tennis player ever. That's Serena Williams. And it ends with, don't ask if your dreams are crazy, ask if they are crazy enough. And the whole idea about an impossible dream is that it calls us higher. It pulls things out of us that would not have been expressed or shared if we remained comfortable. And sometimes we have to get uncomfortable, but the question is that impulse for that thing, this is my quest, is the important thing, is to find what is your quest. Someone can just tell you a dream that sounds nice, but unless it's yours, that is not going to give you that impulse to move towards it. And so how do we find our quest? What is my thing to do? You know, so after my car accident a year ago, I was lost, didn't think I'd do anything. So I took a class at university. It was Introduction to Political Science. I was up at the lecture theater in a wheelchair, and it was steep. It was a huge thing. It held lots of people. And there was a little platform, and there was a professor. And he said, "Welcome to the Introduction to Political Science." And this little bad boy was on fire. He kept moving around, talking about Machiavelli and all kinds of political theories and stuff. He was engaged. He was lit up. He was moving around. He was so excited, I got excited. I don't know if you ever saw When Harry Met Sally. I wanted to have what he was having. Because my life was flat, hopeless, and lost. And this bad boy was so jazzed. And so I decided I became a political science major. After 2 more classes, I realized it wasn't a political science. But at that time, when I was lost and I felt I had no direction and no purpose, what it did show me was something lit him up. Something was his passion. Something juiced him and jazzed him. And I wondered, what's my version of that? What is it that's going to get me as excited as that guy? And I didn't know what it was. Interestingly, you sometimes forget things. I hearken back to a few years before that. I was in my English class before the teacher got there, and some kids, this was before my accident, and the kids were talking about Judgment Day. And they said, Judgment Day is a day that God judges you on what you did with what he gave you. And for some reason, they're there, and I'm just kind of by myself, and I pray. I say, God, what am I supposed to do? And I'm not kidding. Like in my head, I wanted to be a professional basketball player, a gigolo. I mean, all kinds of little things. I'm in high school. I'm a kid. I'm immature. Clearly, you saw God had a lot of work to do through me. But I'm not kidding. I got silent. I said, God, what am I supposed to do? And one word came, and the word was, speak. At the time, it made no sense. It was ridiculous. I didn't even think about it. And so 2 months later, I get in a car accident, 6 months in the hospital, blah, 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 not feeling that good. And then about 5 years after that, my brother introduced me to Toastmasters. Seemed to have a little bit of success, those things going well. And about 7 years after that time, I heard that voice. I thought, I like this thing. I didn't think it was a career, but I started speaking in halfway houses and in prisons and for all kinds of different organizations. Anywhere I would speak for free. I went on the street for an opening of a Goodwill Industries. I spoke. I would speak anywhere for anyone for nothing. I started loving it so much. 13 years after that date, I entered seminary and knew that it was what I was meant to do. And the point I'm trying to make here, sometimes it doesn't come quick, but I guarantee you, it has been born in you. It was in you from the day you were born. It was in you when you got sent here. The question is, what is your quest? That you need to find it and you need to own what is yours to do. And I tell you, there are people who have amazing talents. I met someone who's such a great chef and cook. The joy and love that she puts in that is absolutely amazing and stunning. I met someone who is so organized. In North Carolina, when I moved there, I just shipped my stuff up, and their admin person was the most organized human being. I got there. She had unpacked every single thing in my house was ready to roll. And I have some needs that certain things need to be. She had it so perfect. I thought, how in the world did she do that? But she had a gift to help people get organized. Maybe your gift is to heal. Maybe it's to teach. Maybe it's to write. Maybe it's to coach. I don't know what it is, but I guarantee there is something that is in you that is your quest, that is your impossible dream, that is absolutely calling you. So we got to find it. We got to own it. And we also need to work on it. And we need to work it. Because one thing I really believe that impossible ain't easy, that it takes effort, it takes work, and it takes determination. Here's what the line says. to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And so are you willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause? Are you willing to work harder than you ever have before? Because one thing I know is change and transformation and great achievements take energy. They take work. They take effort. You know, somebody once said you have to do the practical, then do the possible, and then you do the impossible. You know, I read an article about impossible dreams, and they said, dream wildly, be even delusional in your dreams. But when it comes to the work, be realistic. Know the steps that you have to take that will get you to your impossible dream. Michael Jordan's the best basketball player ever. I think most of us would agree. The number one pet peeve Michael Jordan had was when people said, oh, you're a natural. It just comes easy to you. It irritated him more than anything else. You know why? Because he felt like it put down his work ethic. And one thing he was proud of was how hard he worked. Jordan became the best basketball player, not just because of natural talent, but because he worked. He put time and effort and discipline and focus into it. And sometimes hard work scares us. Sometimes we'd rather not go with the dream thing if it's too hard. Joseph Campbell had a beautiful line. He said, the cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. That the hard work that we rather avoid is the very thing that holds the gift and the beauty and the greatness and levels of joy that we cannot touch unless we go there. Jesus said, in this life there'll be trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah, there are going to be challenges, but be of good cheer, because great things will come forth from it. Every single one of us has enough reasons to give up. We have enough excuses to not try. Maya Angelou faced incredible levels of racism, sexual abuse, and poverty, and she didn't let it stop her. Walt Disney got bankrupt a number of times and let it stop him. Colonel Sanders was old and got rejected a lot. Jay-Z got rejected from so many record companies, he started his own. It takes work. It takes boldness. Tiger Woods hasn't been good for a long, long time. He dominated for 15 years. And his impossible dream was to find his game again. And he looks like he's finally found his game again. And the thing I like about it is I think who he has become, this is my own opinion, is even nicer and better and more relatable now. I think he is loved and adored as much now. And it was through that process of hard work that he has gotten his game back and found his impossible dream. And sometimes your impossible dream is different at different stages. You know, his impossible dream today is different than it was 15 years ago, but there's still a connection to all of those dreams for us. That hard work isn't just physical, it's also mental. One of the things with Don Quixote that he got charged with was they said that he saw life as it could be, but not how it really was. And they thought he should be more grounded in reality and not be living in fantasy and possibility. And to me, one of my favorite lines that he says to Sancho is, he said, Sancho, facts are the enemy of the truth. Facts are the enemy of the truth. And so here's the thing, though. Here's my thing is, how do you balance the facts and the truth? How do you balance reality and possibility? Because it isn't easy. You can't put too much on one or the other. And so every one of us is here, and we want to get there, because there is better than here. And the thing is, when we think that there is better than here, we diminish our here, thinking we're doing something wrong or bad or this isn't as good. And when we have that energy that here is not as good as there, at some point when we get there, that there is going to be our new here. And if we keep thinking that the here is not as good as there, because there will be another there, we'll keep going from here and there and thinking that there's better than here and diminishing our here, but we'll never enjoy our there when we get there. Does that make sense? And so how do we live in the now, in the reality, in the facts, and hold a space for the possibility and the future and the dream? And that's the work. Is to find joy and fulfillment and appreciation and acceptance that your life is exactly the way it should be. You're not doing anything wrong right now. Because to diminish it is to diminish your life and to diminish yourself and the gifts that God has given us, now is great. And it's from that fullness and greatness that our impulse to evolve will bring us our next there. Because if we keep going from deficient to that'll be better, we'll be chasing our tails for the rest of our life. Does this make sense, everyone? And the other one is also the impossible dream. We have this fixation in our culture, and some of it's good, is that bigger's better, more is better, faster's better. And sometimes slowing down is better. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes just finding peace with yourself and living and enjoying your life is the impossible dream. Because in a culture that moves so fast, a culture that always wants more, always wants what's next, it is an impossible dream sometimes to be okay with where you are and who you are and just keep enjoying your life in that way. Final thing I want to talk about is the last little bit. It says, and I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this. You know, the greatest gift that you can offer the world is to be true to yourself, to be your most authentic self, not an imitation of what you think others should be or what you should be for others to like you. It's to truly be who you are, and then your heart will lie calm when you are laid to rest. Don Quixote at the end, Alonso Quijana, when he was dying, you could see that he died in peace. That even though his last few years were not a lot, he lived them on his own terms. And you could feel the peace as he passed in the play. But he also changed lives. That his sidekick Sancho and his girl Aldonza, they were inspired. And even some of the family that thought he was nuts, a few of them opened up. Because when you live your greatest life, it not only blesses you, but that light radiates and touches people, and sometimes you don't even know how many people it touches by you being the best you that you can be. Mark Twain once said, the greatest regrets in life are not the things that we do or say, they are the things that we don't do and didn't say. They're the things that we didn't try. The thing I love about this, to dream the impossible dream, it is an invitation to not hold back on your life. It is an invitation to live more fully, to love more fully, and to be more fully who you came here to be, and not let anybody's opinion or fear or negative beliefs stop you from going after your quest and stopping you from reaching your unreachable star. So what is your heavenly cause? What dream is calling you? What is your unreachable star? What is your quest? I invite you to find it, follow it, work for it, and go after your impossible dream. God bless you.